Oakland A's UK.
Yes, absolutely. So we have some baseball back in our lives, and we'll start by having a look at the Oakland A's overall performance across the first half of the season. And we go into the All-Star break with the A's having won 52 games and lost 40. So we're second in the AL West, 3.5 games behind the Astros. And that puts the A's on the 5th best record in the American League. So we're currently in a wildcard position. And I'd say, Dom, probably happy enough, given the players we lost over the offseason, given some of the bumps in the road we've seen with injuries. 52 and 40, we'll take that, I think.
Yeah, I think... yes. I think after 6 straight losses at the start of the season, I'd have snapped your hand off for this. I think after 13 games before losing the 14th in that win streak that followed the 6 losses, I'd have said, nah, not good enough. It does feel like we've limped into the All-Star break. I think we'd very much run out of steam. You and I spent the last game we watched together just before the All-Star break running through the injury list. We're trying to work out when people were back.
Yes.
So I think well timed the All-Star break. Hopefully we've got some big guns coming back soon. But yeah, you definitely take this. We're a second half team normally.
We are.
I think with the exception of 2014, which was an absolute aberration, we're always been a second half team.
Yeah, it is interesting how we had such a good June. We went 17-9 during June, and it does feel like we've just, like I say, run out of steam a little bit. And I think that's maybe you can almost put it to last year, just the short season, especially with some of the pitchers. You know, they didn't play a whole season last year, so it just felt like the All-Star break came at a good time for us this year, and that isn't always the way, but feels like it has this time. But the A's have been doing their usual magic. We've had 7 walk-off wins so far and only lost 2 via a walk-off, so that's pretty good going. And in terms of how we've competed against the AL West, the disappointment really has been against the Astros, hasn't it? I mean, it started right at the start of the season with a 4-game sweep, which I know we basically wrote off. It was kind of such a weird series. You just wrote it off, really. And, you know, since then, we've essentially gone 4-5 against them. So bearing in mind they're such a good team, that's not too bad. We are averaging 6 runs allowed in every game, and you're going to struggle to beat those guys if you keep that up, aren't you?
I think it feels, sorry to jump straight to an English football reference, but it feels like Arsenal at Old Trafford. There's just some sort of mental block playing the Astros. It happens too often. We'll be in a position, like a clutch position, fielding, and something just goes wrong, and we allow a home run, or we stuff up a play or something like that. Just too often against the Astros. They score big against us, and vice versa. Too often we present them with a duck.
Yeah, it's been frustrating. But the interesting thing is we don't play them again until right near the end of the season. So 24th of September is the next time we play them. So we finish the season with 4 at home against Seattle, 3 at home against Houston, then 3 away to Seattle, 3 away to Houston. So hopefully by then, that's going to be a really good stretch drive in terms of we've got the opportunity to take games off them, basically. I think that's what you always want. It's in your own hands then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you have to fancy us in the second half to improve on that record against the Astros. If we don't, the reality is we most likely won't be playing playoff baseball. It's gone back to the smaller postseason. After last year. So, teams with losing records won't be in the playoffs this year, unlike last year. No. There are plenty of losing records out there, actually, at the moment. It's really strange how some teams have just decided to completely tank. And that's going to be interesting. We're obviously a couple of weeks away from the trade deadline, and we'll get to some of the ideas on what the A's might do at the trade deadline. But you always get this part of the season where it's who's going to be buyers, who's going to be sellers. And it looks like there's almost more sellers than buyers at the moment, which, could play into our hands, but we'll see. But the A's have been doing really well, I think, generally speaking, against the AL West. We're 7-3 against the Angels, who, once again, coming into the season,
all of the media are going on about how good the Angels are, how they're going to be challenging the Astros. No one's talking about the A's, but here we are again. The Angels have really fallen apart. Picked up a little bit of late, but we're nicely ahead of Len. We're 5-5 against Texas and 3-3 against Seattle. So we've got quite a lot of games to play against Seattle, and they're a team in transition. So again, hopefully that's something we can take advantage of.
Yeah, I think we do need to try and improve our record against the AL West teams. It doesn't feel like for a team with our overall record, we're not beating up against our rivals as much as we could, and that actually really helps because it helps you pull away.
Yeah,
it's the equivalent of 6 pointers. So we do need to improve on those records in the second half of this season. Texas especially. How on earth we've dropped 5 to them?
Yeah, and it's been weird because we went all of that time without playing them all season. Then we got them 10 times in like the space of 2.5 weeks, didn't we? And I suspect as much as anything that it coincided with a bad period for us, I guess. That was when we ran out of steam. I think it was more us running out of steam than Texas kind of putting their foot on top of us. So hopefully we can drag some of those wins back in Seattle as well, because they're a team that you would think we could take some wins against. The big disappointment, I guess, when you look at the record, is just that 3-game series against the Giants, because we hold so dear to doing the double, retaining the Bay Bridge Series trophy and winning the World Series. And didn't go our way at whatever it's called now, Oracle Park, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's winnable though. It's winnable because we got that last game. So
we can sweep
them at the Coliseum, and we keep the Bay Bridge. Beat them 2-1, and I think, doesn't it stay with us because the winners retain it?
That's true, yeah. So we're still odds on to keep it, I think, and that's at the Coliseum at near the end of August, I think. So,
mind you, we've ignored the elephant in the room that is the Giants. Like up until last week, I don't even know if this is still the case, but they got the best record.
I think they have, yeah. I'm not sure if it's still the best.
Absolutely obscene.
Just come out of nowhere, hasn't it? And Giants are. To be honest, I think the Giants are as surprised as anyone. They've obviously got some good players, and people like Buster Posey has really come back into kind of all-star form, but they're just having one of those seasons, and it happens sometimes, doesn't it? A few players really step up, a few guys who've been injured come back and get into form, and you go on a roll, and that confidence builds, the momentum builds, and you just keep riding, as we say with Oakland, you ride the wave. Ride the wave. So fair play to them, you've got to say that. And I know people are quite, it's a bit like local rivalries in football over here. Some people kind of view them differently. I know there are people out there who kind of go to games at the Giants ballpark and go to games at the A's ballpark. Some people just hate each other in that respect. But I do quite like the idea of, personally, seeing both Bay Area teams doing well. I think that's better. So long as we come out on top in the end, I'd like to see the Giants and A's really going at it as two really good teams, rather than beating up on a Giants team that isn't very good.
Don't get me wrong. I'd love nothing more than for us to sweep them again in the World Series.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't that be beautiful? What a beautiful end to what's been a difficult 2 years.
Yeah,
it's written in the stars, I think, Dom.
Fingers crossed. No, I'd probably subscribe to the same mantra that I'd probably rather the Giants were doing well than the Dodgers, etc.
Yeah.
As long as they don't actually win anything.
yeah, that's always a difficulty, isn't it? Talking about teams who won't be winning anything, the Minnesota Twins have absolutely fallen to pieces this year. They had a really good year last year, but they are doing terrible. We've got a 5-1 record against them, so we're taking advantage of there, which is good. We've also got 4-0 records against the D-backs, who are, again, terrible, and the Tigers, who are, again, terrible. So we've done a good job in taking advantage of those teams. But I think you're right, Dom, that we've got more games coming up against Texas, more games coming up against Seattle. They're the teams where we've really got to be, when you win the first 2 games, get the third to sweep the series.
Yeah, it's the I think this is a football reference, but I might be wrong. We need to be flat track bullies. We've got to beat
cricket.
Up on...
It's cricket. You don't like cricket?
Oh shit!
I've mentioned the C word. I'm sorry.
Bloody hell. I've given you control, so I can't mute you.
I know. You can give me a yellow card, though.
I don't think I've got anything around me that's yellow.
Which is a disgrace as an A's fan. Come on.
Hang on.
Here we go. For the benefit of podcast listeners,
there's a coaster.
There we go. He's directing a A's UK coaster at me to give me the yellow card for mentioning the C word cricket. Yes,
yeah,
but flat track bullies.
The A's need to be flat track bullies. So
Yes.
if they're playing a team that's a dumpster fire or even close, we need to beat up on them. We need to get those wins. And it just makes our life, it takes the pressure off them when you play the games against the Houstons and etc. Because I think, sorry to go back to it, I do think that we've got some sort of mental thing with Houston. They're just not such a better team than us as the record suggests.
There's definitely baggage there, and it does seem like, I mean, maybe we're trying too hard. I don't know. That can sometimes be the way, especially in baseball, where you're so desperate to beat them that you kind of end up over swinging, trying to make a play defensively that isn't really on.